Hello, 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 all. As always, I start my shows by telling you that I always bring you fascinating people and I try to find the best of the best. And I'm realizing everybody is the best. Everyone is remarkable in some way. And I always try to use my platform to share their expertise, their gifts, their talents, and what they've learned with you because I know everyone I speak with. I learn something from them. And my hope is the people I share with you, the same is true when you watch them for you. My guest tonight is a brilliant woman, and I love to share brilliance, especially when it's a female counterpart. I feel sometimes that women have a difficult time promoting each other, but I don't. I love to promote everyone, especially females. And so I am going to put my neck out there and vouch for the woman I'm going to share with you shortly. She's an educator and a wonderful person. She's actually a friend, has been a friend for many years and has helped me in some of my most difficult times. She's a lawyer, a counselor. I don't want to spend all night on the introduction. You will learn for yourself as we continue with tonight's segment. But I invited her on the show tonight because, like I've said, she's an educator and a really great teacher. And over the years, we've discussed in many different conversations the need for revamping the way our education system works. And I've been saying this to my friends a lot. Let's stop talking about this stuff. We all know what is wrong with it. Let's work on finding solutions. And I think she's on to something. So tonight, we will have a conversation and at a later date, we will come back and she will share in detail what her plans are for revamping the education that she's providing for others, which will hopefully ripple out and other educators might agree with what she's doing because at the end of it all, the goal is to educate people. Her name is Laura. Laura, welcome to Conversations with Jennylyn. You're not going to believe I blanked on your last name.
That's okay.
How
Well,
long have I known you?
it has that Italian in it, so it's also maybe good to have gone away from, knowing exactly, but it's Angino, Laura Angino. So thank you so much, Jenny, for having me, here with you so we can, state, where everything should go in terms of education and its revamping and how AI is going to really disrupt what has been really, education as we know it. And that's really what's going on. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I love bringing people on, although I'm not someone who's hung up on how many people follow me and how many people watch my shows. That's insignificant to me. My ego doesn't run my show. And
Right.
therefore, I believe what I put out there, those who are meant to see it will see it. And even if it's five people, I don't really care. I'm going to keep doing what I do. I'm not
Exactly.
defined by views or followers. And because of that, I'll continue to do this when I feel like it and when I have someone that I believe and trust has something to share with you that will inspire you. And Laura, I have
Mhm.
faith and confidence because anything I've ever asked her to do for me, she came through like a trooper. She is an expert in everything that she does. Darn girl, but she really is. So I,
Well, I don't like to do anything what we say halfway. I always try to, if I say I'm going to do something, then I follow through. I'm excellent at executing. So that's my forte. So, yeah,
I
part of education, execution.
So Laura is Italian. She was born in Italy, but spent quite a bit of her life in Los Angeles. She's been all over the place. And what I love about that, because I have a similar background, is that we bring so much to the table because we've experienced so many different cultures. And this allows us to examine how things are done in different places so that we can see what is good and bad about what they're doing. So that when you get to the table to try to make a plan for the better, you have that in the background. So, Laura, tell us what you do in terms of education. I know you homeschooled your children and you have
Yes.
brilliant children, and now you
Thank
are
you.
teaching other people's children. So tell us about this and when you decided that the system, that you're going to do something about what you know is broken.
Well, a little bit of my background. So I'm originally actually from the East Coast, Virginia, Maryland area. Came out to UCLA for university studies. And then, of course, I have dual citizenship, so I'm what they call Italo-American. And started homeschooling my children, especially after 9/11. Really, when people were, it was not the craze, but I knew that since I had been in some ways homeschooled by my mother, who had been a professor, we used to go to regular, school during the day, English school, and then we'd come home and then we'd have to do our Italian lessons. So homeschooled in Italian, so I knew exactly what to be expect and how the curriculum could really, be laid out. So for me, it wasn't challenging in that sense, but I knew exactly how it needed to be structured. And that's really what I've been doing, especially when COVID hit. Um, there was so much interest in having education online, so I was able to really, put forth my concepts, the structure, and see how these children. A lot of the students had gaps in their education. They needed to catch up, and that's why this was important to do. So, been homeschooling families, but then I became an educational consultant for other families to figure out what they should be doing. If the children needed to apply for certain tests for private school, would get them ready for that. So, my background is I was started with Sylvan Prometric. I installed all of those computerized testing overseas. So my background is definitely in education. Went a little bit into accent modification because there was also a need for that. A lot of tech people interested in how they could modify or fine-tune their accent if they came from other countries and needed to have a little bit more respect, with their staff, with their teams, because strangely enough, accent does hold a form of, strangely enough, quote unquote, racism. If they don't feel that you speak the same way, you don't get the same kind of respect. So I also did that through the students through the UCLA Anderson School of Management. So quite a variety in the educational landscape. But right now, AI is disrupting so much. And we have been talking about education needing to be really revamped, but this is not a new thing. This is just now coming to the forefront even more so because of this AI, right? So I actually use AI in the classroom. I let my students I use the tools that are there. I encourage it because if you don't, then you don't want your students doing something on the side, you not knowing about it. At least you are privy to what, and then they see where how do you call it, where the negatives are with AI. They also notice that if they are given a very good foundation, like a very just a structural foundation, then they can catch the mistakes with AI. And that's important. And that's where what is needed. We need to keep up students' creativity, their logic, their critical thinking, and at the same time allow them to be less brainwashed by what we think is best for them and see and guide them and just provide them the structure for them to really develop and bloom. Because we don't want to be giving them our baggage as teachers, as educators, as consultants. We don't. We want to see where their talents lie, right? And really give them up kind of like a platform for where they can really take off. So I think that AI could be excellent at this, and at the same time, there's a lot of fear, unfortunately, within the educational landscape with teachers. Oh, how are we're going to lose our jobs. I don't think this is really the case. This is really kind of pushing us forward to be able to think of education and educating our children for the future in a different way.
Well, Laura, I was checking, and based
Hmm.
on what I have learned, AI is not regulated.
Yes.
If it is not regulated, for me, there's a really fine line between it being for your better and it being dangerous.
Hmm.
Does this
Yes.
concern you?
It concerns me in this, like in my classroom, I can at least regulate how AI is used, right? Then there is, of course, the landscape at home, how children are raised, and that always has to go back to how much screen time they're having, things like that. That really needs to be a more home environment. But what I'm trying to say in terms of AI as tools where they can use to amplify their education, to kind of, let's say somebody learns a little bit faster or a little bit slower, then there isn't that shame, involved because, it'll fine tune, the AI will fine tune to where the student is at. A lot of parents, especially in tech, do not want their children exposed to AI as much or to screen time as much. So my platform allows to really work with the parent and what they really want for the student. And that's what schools need to be doing, to be able to kind of work with the parents, provide the structure and be flexible enough because they really want us to be flexible now in the workplace, right? Layoffs are like a dime a dozen now, and you have to pivot. You have to have 9 careers you got in a lifetime. It used to be one career in a lifetime. It's not like that anymore. So if they want us to pivot, right, as adults, you need to teach this in terms of when they are young. So you need to be flexible. When to use AI, when not. A little bit off and a nice balance is what is needed, right? And at the same time, develop their innate talents, right? If they're more musically inclined, if they're more crafts inclined, if they're more, right, different. You have to, and as teachers, we kind of know and understand our students better to be able to really figure that out.
So I know that growing up as a child,
Hmm.
it's amazing. I must have been born with gifts that I used to always wonder how come I noticed things that everyone
Mm.
else seemed oblivious to. And I kept thinking, how come the school curriculum didn't make any sense? Because there were so many subjects that they chose for you.
Yes.
They made you learn. And then you grow older and you start your life off in debt because you have to borrow money to go to a college to take all these subjects that they have decided you
Hmm.
need to take in order to get a decent degree, to get
Yes.
a good job, and then you graduate. You've taken all these subjects. Oftentimes, most people don't ever start working in that field at all while they're in debt for all the loans they've taken out to
Hmm.
take these forced subjects that are not even pertinent to their career
Yeah.
choice and they start their life off in debt.
Yes.
Right.
This is very much the case here in the United States, where, I'm very much concerned with my students who are first in elementary, middle, and then high school. I'm already thinking if they're in elementary, where is everything going to be, you know, so many years down the line when they do go to university? And the ones that are in high school, I'm already concerned for them now because I know that AI is going to be super disruptive within 3 years. Some people want to say five, but I see it just accelerating to 3 years. By the time they apply, by the time they finish, what majors are they going to be graduating in? And then if the jobs are not there in what they're thinking, being a lawyer, even in the health industry, nurses now, did you see that they decided that nursing is no longer a profession? So that affects the grants. That affects the financial aid, the Pell Grants that are out there. This is going to be disruptive. So it is our duty as the adults who can maybe see what's coming ahead and can be informed to safeguard our children in a way that we leave them with not great so much debt, and at the same time we guide them in the direction where at least they will have some sort of independence, economic, financial independence. How are they going to do that with when there are layoffs a dime a dozen in software engineering and so many other data analysts? No such thing. Accountancy, even lawyers, you go 2, 3 more years after your university degree, you're $300,000 in debt. And now these junior lawyers cannot work for law firms because nobody wants to hire them because they don't need that. The senior lawyers still have their position in their firms, but junior law junior lawyers not being hired because Sentient and all these other AI platforms are doing the work.
So I have long ago been aware of something that people are either oblivious to or they haven't stopped to look at it.
Yeah.
Or if you look around the world, you will notice a lot of people in the world. I call them NPC robots because they're told, they're dictated to, you're going to do this and this and this. They do not question any of it and they just do it, even if it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
And I am one who challenges everything. If it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not doing it. I don't care
Right.
who tells me I have to do it. And I
Right.
can tell this really quickly. It's
Mm.
it's just an example of how much I I can't even think of the appropriate adjective in this moment, but it really irks me. I went to my gynecologist. They gave me a long list of questions, like 14. And
Mhm.
each one of these 14 questions is, what do you identify as? And a whole lot of questions checking my gender. I was so irritated. I read the questions, looked around the waiting room, and everyone was answering them. I'm like, what is wrong with you people? I took a pen, I drew a line from the first to the last question, and I wrote across the top. I was born a woman. I identify as a woman. I will die a woman. Please do not ask me this garbage. And I
Mhm.
walked over to the front desk and handed it to the girls. And they looked at the paper and then they looked at me and she read what I wrote. She couldn't stop laughing. She called all her coworkers and they were laughing. I was not trying to amuse them. I was
Mhm.
just irritated that someone sat down and
Mhm.
wrote these questions and is subjecting all the patients to answering it. So
Well,
I
probably the form was made by AI, where they asked, okay, can you list each and every little blank that we should put on a meta? Because this is what's happening now. The forms aren't made by people, they're just spit out by a certain platform that people are using, ChatGPT, Gemini, or any of these AI platforms, which will just accumulate everything from the internet and then decide what forms need to be used. And maybe nobody even glances at it. They just spits it out and put it out there because, that's the way that's the way it's going nowadays.
Well, since I have no filters and I say things as they are, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this.
Mm.
It doesn't matter what system they have or what structure they have, it's all designed to screw us over. It's designed for those who run these systems to make money.
Well,
As an educator, let me
yeah,
ask you this question.
yes.
Do you see how it will continue to profit those who make these decisions?
Yes, if you think about it, I always tell the parents that keep in mind that I do know that you want your child to go to the top tier Ivy League schools. Maybe you don't care, you just want them to go to university. You feel that that education is still I'm not, knowledge is all, seeking knowledge is always good. And at the end of the day, the more you use your brain, it's a muscle at the end of the day. The more you exercise it, the better it gets, or else every day that passes, there's atrophy that sets in. I mean, that's normal. Like from the time you come out of the womb, it's all downhill from there at the end of the day. So atrophy sets in, and the brain is a muscle. The more you use it, the better it becomes. Your recall, your remembering things is very important. When I'm teaching my students, they will always ask me the why question. Miss Laura, why do we need to learn this? We don't need to use it. How
Thank
are we
you.
ever going to use this in our daily life? I said, listen, I'm not telling you you're going to use it. The only reason I'm teaching you this is because it sets your brain in motion to be able to exercise itself. Will you use this concept anywhere in the future? I don't think so. But right now, I'm here as your trainer, your mind trainer. I exercise that muscle. I have my students memorize poems. Why do they do that? Are they going to sit out there, 10 years down the line and recite poetry? Most probably not. So I tell them this is a different part of the brain that needs to be exercised. The same way that we go to exercise our bodies, we do Pilates, then we do aerobics, then we do all different forms of training for the body. We have to do so also for the brain. Different things, critical thinking, memorization, right? Logic. These are all different aspects of the brain that need to be exercised. And it can be done with the simple principles of many years ago that can give them that structure, that practice that they need. Simple. So,
Well, while you were speaking, this
mhm,
this thought occurred to me, and I'm going to go and say, and I'm
mhm,
going to say it, and then ask you the question. We
mhm,
recycle politicians. We live in the United States of America. My question every election cycle is, why are we having the same recycled people? Every
yeah,
year we put out so many educated people. Why isn't there some fresh blood that's not connected to the recycled politicians? I'm
mm,
still waiting for the answer. Well,
yeah,
similarly, I'm going to ask you this question
mhm,
because I know of kids who've spent way more money than necessary because they
mm,
want to get a certain degree. But if you pay attention, you will notice the curriculum is scheduled in such a way that they have to take another year just to get this one particular subject that will allow them to graduate. Because
yes,
it's not structured in such a way where you could take all the classes you need in the first or second or third year and be done. And the more they draw it out, it's the more money you're having to shell out to get this degree, at the end of which there is no guarantee that you will have employment. I was married to a dentist, and I can tell you he had dentists working in his office as hygienists. And they did this because they have bills to pay. You take what
correct.
you can get.
Yes,
Well, Laura, with this new AI system,
yes,
is this problem going to be resolved? Because at the end of the day, they have to make money, those who are in charge.
right. Okay, so this question across the board, because there is this race to get to super intelligence, not just artificial intelligence, super intelligence. That's why there's so much money being invested right now. There's no regulation. Everybody is in this race. The same way we had the nuclear arms, right? Race to get the atomic bomb at that time. There was some regulation that then we had the treaties that needed to be signed amongst countries. This hasn't even reached here. We have tons of people now, these big billionaires investing even more money in this race for getting to super intelligence, the godlike of artificial intelligence. When I tell parents that
This is
their thought
dangerous.
it is because there's no regulation. You can just go online. As long as you know a little bit of, you can challenge, artificial intelligence to do anything. But at the same time, it's a mirror. It's a reflection of your ideas and how they're going to come out. And then it's just going to get, fortified more and more and more. It just keeps learning better and better, right? But at the end of the day, AI is just a mirror of what is out there, of what humans are injecting it with, right? And that's why it can be
Exactly.
dangerous. So you have human nature good and you have human nature bad. Some people want to say, okay, well, artificial intelligence is going to solve all our problems. It's going to be utopian. In many cases, how is humanity, utopian? It isn't. We have the yin and the yang. Same. AI is just going to be a reflection of where we are at as humans. And then they're going to get to super intelligence, and then they'll figure out humans know nothing and understand nothing, and they'll decide.
Do you
But
think
going,
there's a deliberate attempt to sabotage our ability to use our own brains? Because when you think about it, I'm
Mhm.
listening to you, and so forgive me for interrupting, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to lose the thought just
Uh-huh.
because I really feel it's pertinent to what you were just saying.
Mhm.
If AI is a reflection of the person who is consulting the AI, how are we learning? Because if I'm an ugly, dark person,
Mhm.
clearly what's going to be responding to me is some ugly, dark thing. So it's
Mhm.
clearly won't be telling me the same thing the guy over here who has a pure soul and is coming from a good place is getting. It
Mhm.
sounds to me like total chaos. Can you explain? Because you're the expert. Tell us.
Well, I'm not necessarily the expert in artificial intelligence. When it comes to education, I can understand how it can affect um, our children, and especially in the future. And like
Right.
I was saying, universities should be regarded as, since they are mostly private, and even the public ones, they can be expensive. It's just a membership fee to a network. For example, if I pay the very cumbersome fee to apply to any of the Ivy Leagues, it's just that I'm paying a fee to enter an elite membership club. Why? Because yes, I will go through the curriculum like you stated. I will have these classes to take. And at the end of the day, my diploma will say, okay, you've graduated from this Ivy League or you've graduated from whatever university. But at the end of the day, you are paying for the network of people, okay, to which you will be associated. Harvard with the Harvard network, Yale with the Yale network, Princeton. Do you follow? So
I
it's not
found
necessarily the education that you're getting. Yes, it might be a little bit better than your, community college or whatever, but who's to say? Because it depends on who's teaching at the end of the day. But when you are paying those big bucks, you are paying for the membership
the
into a
name.
private, yes. It's a business. Universities are a
Of
business.
course. Of course. That's why
And
when people are dropping their Ivy League, I stand there and I look at them and I don't want to say what
yes.
goes through my mind.
Mhm.
Can I interject once more?
Yes, go ahead.
Co-founder of Oracle was on my television show.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him telling me this is not Larry Ellison, this is Ed Oates, who
Mm-hmm.
co-founded Oracle with Larry. And I asked him this question about when he and Larry hired for Oracle. And I have great respect for him. I did. That's why he was on my show prior to,
Right.
but even more after he answered my question. And he said he doesn't hire you based on which university you went to.
Yes.
He hires you based on when he interviews you, the potential, because he went to San Jose State University. He
Yes.
didn't go to an Ivy League. So at least when he was hiring with Larry,
Hmm.
people that didn't go to an Ivy League got a chance to be hired into Oracle. And
Right.
and you're right, and a lot of people aren't aware of this. These
Exactly.
Ivy League colleges, if you go down the rabbit hole, anyway, I have to be careful what I say.
We don't have to say that there's nothing. Listen, I have nothing against the Ivy Leagues nor any other university. I'm just very clear with the parents and their expectations. If you want and you have the wherewithal to allow, to get into that, it's a network that you're paying into. People will say, well, you know what? I'm going to Princeton or I'm going to UCLA on a full scholarship. It's no money off of out of my pocket. Okay, that's kind of like a lottery ticket that you won out of the very few, right? And you get to have access to that membership, that network. Okay. But I am very clear with the parents that you are really only accessing a network and you are paying for that network. So if you want your child to be in debt or you as a family to be in debt, know that that's what you're paying for because it is a business. When I am coming from the education point of view, what I'm trying to say is I'm coming more from the point is that as a teacher, as an educator, it is my responsibility that if I know better, I should guide the parents accordingly, but my first and foremost um, dedication should be to my student. And I have to look out for my students where they're going to be headed 5 years, 10 years down the line, and how can I prepare them for a future that even as adults we don't know what's happening, right? That's what's important to me. And that's why I was saying, when we can revamp education, we need to look at it being empathetic to the student because most of them don't even want to learn. They so why do I have to go to school? And they at 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, half of them are like zombies. I don't understand how a work time is 9 to 5, but our children have to be bright and ready
Thank you.
at 8 o'clock.
Thank you.
And you're teaching to a zombie. I mean, the child is not prepared for that. They're not. People have noticed and done studies that if you start the child's school at 10, they're awake, they're ready, they're present, ready to learn, happy. Are they going to prison? I don't think so.
Well, and
School
what's
should
worse,
not,
they moved the clock back. So you're waking them up even earlier. I mean, who's making these decisions?
yes.
Are they really thinking about how children function?
No, because nowadays, Jenny, I can tell you that parents want to be good parents, but both of them have to be working nowadays. A dual income is absolutely necessary. Okay, first of all. And the school has become a safe place I can put my children and not have to think and be scared for them from 8 till about 4.
What
By
did
the
you
time,
just say?
yeah, it's a
With all the
glorified.
school shootings?
No, I'm just saying in the sense that, well,
Oh,
it's like a
okay.
secondary thing, but at least I know where they are, right? And 8 to 4, I can function, do whatever I'm doing as work, right? Like I said, most parents want to be good parents, but how has the way we are living it, set us up, for it? It's just very difficult. Daycare is extremely expensive.
Exactly.
Right? So, where do the parents get the support? So, as a teacher, I am supportive of the parent who's really interested in being a good parent. And I kind of let them start thinking of what they're in for because most of the time, everybody's oblivious to what's really going on,
Hmm?
you know?
Certainly.
So, so this is really how I train my parents, and they're very happy that at least they know what they're up against. Somebody is kind of telling them and so forth. And somebody is interested in really knowing how to foster good education to at least have them affront what is coming in the future, to the best of our ability, because we really don't know ourselves, right?
Exactly, exactly. I want to be clear on something. I did
Yeah.
not go to an Ivy League school, and I am not implying, before anyone goes after my jugular, that if you went to an Ivy League school, all you have is a brand. I'm sure you get a very good education there, but
Yes.
my take on all of it is it doesn't matter this, not only the school that you go to matters, it's your attitude and what you put into where you go
Yeah.
and what you leave with. And
Yes.
so I feel sometimes if you've gone to one of those schools, you don't have to work as hard. I could be wrong. It's my opinion. Because, when you come out and say you went there, you have an edge over someone who went to some other school that just has a name that's not Ivy League and they worked really, really hard. And this is another problem I see with our education system.
Yes.
But then if you look at our world, especially United States, all of it feels to me like a big compromise that's
Yeah.
designed to make those making the rules rich.
Yeah,
And
well, it's again based on this elitist.
mhm,
Everything is becoming education. It's, you can, the people who can afford to are sending their children to private schools where the tuition annually, Jenny, is 50 to 75,000 a year. The best schools in the sense that they have good platforms, right? So forth and so everything. But isn't that elitist? When did education, in a way, is financially not equivalent for everybody? So that means a child who is born into a lower income family should not have the same level playing field as that what comes, who is born in a rich family. This is not where education should be. It should be done in a way that there's a level playing field for all children. Those that want to learn, and of course, you're going to find those that don't want to learn. Then that separates differently, but not based on what's in your pocket and where you're coming from. And this is where I feel that if we can, I'd come up with this idea for a platform where we could use AI and the conventional methods. And then have you heard, Jenny, it takes a village to raise a child. Have you
yep,
heard that
yes,
expression?
yes,
It
I've heard
is
that.
definitely more important now than ever before.
Well, Laura,
Mm-hmm.
you were speaking and you were saying if you don't, the way the education system is appearing, as though if you don't have a lot of money,
Yes.
really cannot have a good education because how many families in this world where we're paying taxes to fight wars have $75,000 to send five kids to school?
Yes.
But the sad thing is, I know we're discussing education, but this is true for everything, for
Yeah.
medicine, for, and we are supposed to be living in the superpower, the United States. Really? Have we, are we facing the new title that we have? Because if I have to be honest with myself, because that's the only person I'm responsible for, there's nothing super powerful about the state of this country that we live in. I feel
Yeah.
our government is hugely compromised, and they're definitely not making decisions in the best interest of the average American.
Yes. Especially now, like I said, there's so many layoffs, the economy is uncertain. Like I said, back to education. How are we going to prepare our children? Nobody's talking about that. People are just seeing that there's this rush for, artificial intelligence, investing. There's only a very few at the top of the billionaires that are funding all of this. Who decided that they are going to make the decisions for us?
It's a
It's
billionaire
their
war.
families. But they have made the decision. The decision has already been made,
It's not
right?
about us. It's a billionaire war. Watch it.
Yeah.
Watch them. They're
So,
all trying to
um,
be the one on the cutting edge, making
right.
the most money.
And I have children that are of the age where they could be having families, and I worry what's going to happen with my grandkids, you know? What am I going to tell them as an educator? What should they be learning? What should they be studying? What are the jobs of the future? You know, and you get this whole spiel that it should be, okay, well, they should be thinking about creative logic, critical thinking. I understand that, but there's no real we don't even know what they should be. And I'm wondering, I don't want to put my grandchild into debt, getting, and getting a degree. I was actually interviewing um, a student last week, Jenny, and she just started USC. And I asked her and I said, so what are you going to major in? Well, I'm declared right now and I have to do my compulsories because, they have the ones because if they didn't study anything in high school, this is the time they weed it out, right? It's a waste of time. The whole high school should be the 4 years, but they don't do anything in high school. But anyway, so I said, well, you know what? I think I'm going to go into law. And I said, really? And she said, yeah, I'll be a lawyer. And I said, and have you really read about where being a lawyer is going to be within
Did you
60?
feel bad asking her that? Because I had a similar conversation with a young person. Not that they wanted to be a lawyer, but I go, do you see what's happening to people now with degrees in that field? I,
Yeah.
I don't mean to pop your bubble, but I think you should research this some more.
Yes,
And I felt
but
awful saying
but
that.
nobody is having this conversation, Jenny, with the that's what I'm saying. I'm having this conversation with parents of children that are now in elementary. I have parents that are in middle and parents of those in high school. Because in your freshman year, which is your first year of high school, is when you start thinking already, what is it that want to go into? What is it that I want to be studying? By the second year, you need to, and you're going to be applying to an Ivy League is when you start making decisions. Well, how can you do that? You have no idea what the jobs of the future are going to be. And everybody's talking about universal income and everything else. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to be. What's going to happen? And then where's going to be the purpose of life? If I'm not working, contributing to a community, using my talents, what is the purpose of life?
What's the purpose of life? The question should be, how am I going to afford my life?
Yeah, well, nobody's talking about that either. Everybody's exactly fueling this
You
AI
see,
economy where they're laying off jobs. Well, you're going to make products nobody can afford.
exactly. And
Nobody can afford.
my passion, as you can see, certain topics, I get very fired up because I'm frustrated in watching people just like they're just like, they roll with the status quo. They're like, okay, this is what the government says. We're gonna do this. They don't question anything. They just go with it. And I can't wrap my head around that. It's like,
Yes, it's
has
more of a
someone taken away
reactive.
your brain? So what I've been doing is burying myself under the sand. Because if
Yes.
I don't, I will explode with, wake up, people.
Right, right. Well, we tend to be more of a reactive, you know. We're reactive in our responses as opposed to being proactive. But also, there's so much doubt with being proactive. We really don't know what to do, right? So back to the educational aspect of things. What I was saying is that let's try to offer an alternative type of school, right? Alternative type of school is, we have the original schools were built where you have these big schools with a lot of real estate on a lot of land because then they have to have their extracurricular activities, and real estate is a problem. The big pushback is how do we create, even if we have, plenty of money to put into these schools and everybody wants, how can you expand if you don't even, if you, real estate is a problem, right? I mean, where are you going to find, if you want to move into cities, it's so overcrowded, put these big edifices, right? These big buildings with a lot of land, there's going to be pushback there. Then, if you want to try to change the education part, the curriculum part, you have the pushback from the teachers and the unions. Can't do that. Oh my God, we're going to lose our jobs. So there's protectionism there as well.
Guess
What are you going to do
what?
then?
Guess what?
I I understand. I understand that. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying a lot of pushback in terms of changing education. What I was saying is, let's do it this way. We're not going to hear to reinvent the wheel, and we really don't know necessarily where we're going. So let's kind of let the student lead us a little bit. The child that is not as so much brainwashed by all of our ideas and has all the baggage. What we do is we have, you know how after school activities, people pick up their kids from school 4 o'clock, right? Most of the time, 3:30, pretty much, right? By the time they get there, pick them up, wait for the, and then these schools that are charging so much money, 50, 75,000, even, I mean, it's crazy, will still say, well, you need to enroll them in after school activities. So not only after you've worked a full-time job, you need to go and take these kids to all any after school activities. Then they have to come home, do their homework. There's no family time. Nothing. Nothing for families. Kids eat in their rooms, you know, finish their homework, off to bed. It's crazy. What I'm saying, if we have after school activities like
Can
these,
I interrupt?
you've heard, yeah,
It doesn't happen in the families making the rules.
yes, no, I know. But
This is
that's what I'm
so
saying.
sick.
Homeschool kids have a little bit more leniency in terms of that. So what I do in my homeschool activities, 2 hours every other day is enough to do the standard curriculum that you need to you know, the old school as well as new school. They do their basics English, writing, right? Math. On one day, we touch history, geography, philosophy, whatever the parents feel is important for them. And then they're off to the races, extracurricular activities based on their talents, based on, somebody's more musically inclined should be learning, an instrument. Somebody who they should be involved in a sports activity, right? Because they need teamwork. They need to learn teamwork, working with, being with other kids, right? That social aspect. But at least it gets done within a short frame of time. By the time 2, 3 o'clock rolls around, you're pretty much done, right? You can have your family time. Everybody comes home. You're finished with work. We're good to go. But people say, well, you know what? I have to work from 9 until 4. Maybe I have to I need to put him somewhere at least until 5 because I can't get out of work. What are you going to do then? So the way I'm saying is, as I was telling you, Jenny, do you know those after school activities that kids would go to? I'm sure you've had your children. You take them maybe to a Kumon or to, I don't know, judo class, I don't know, karate class, or remember, right?
Yeah.
Or their soccer is after school. These are called after school activities. And you sign them up like ballet. I don't know. What did your children end up doing,
They did
Jen?
ballet. They were also cheerleaders. They tried to play piano. They tried lots of different things.
Exactly. So, but these are after the school, right?
Right.
This is after your 3 o'clock, cutout session with regular school. What I'm saying is those after school activities should be part and parcel of regular school.
Got it.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, okay, drop the kids off, closer to 9, not this 8 o'clock thing, but closer to 9, right? And I'm sure with this remote, hybrid, whatever situation, that can be accommodated. But they drop and they start their regular 2 hour, right? Regular curriculum. The parents can choose, yes, I want them more on with an AI. I want them more no pen and paper. I don't want them anywhere near screen time. Easily can be done. No problem. After you do that, you know how we have those, I'm not sure, do you have them where you are? But we have a lot of what, robo-taxis, Waymo, robo-vans, where they're driverless. We also have the regular Uber and Lyft. I say engage those services. We used to give didn't we used to get the permission slip for the bus driver, remember?
Yes.
Oh, this child of mine, can you sign this off that they're allowed to go on the field trip? And they, waive all your rights at the end of the day. But really, that's what you did. And you would have a driver take them to wherever. I'm saying this becomes part and parcel. After they're done their 2 hours, they congregate based on their interests, right? 1 month they'll be doing arts and crafts, 1 month they'll be doing ballet, one time they'll be doing music, whatever the child is, right? And you form these little classes. And you do it with the services that are already in your community. That way they also reap the reward, right, of getting, that tuition, right? So they are bolstered in the community, right? That's why we say it takes a village, to raise a child. Those services are already there. Why does the school have to provide an arts and crafts class, a workshop class, a ballet class, a soccer class? YMCA's are all around. A
But
community
all of
garden.
these places cost money, Laura, and the school is free. And
No,
you,
but listen, yeah, school is free, but not the private schools. And what I'm trying to say is a lot of these places that are also the parks and recreation are public, right? We just need people to be able to engage, to create the programs where they say, okay, I have such and such school coming today, right? Basketball at such and such time. What I'm saying is you're engaging the services within the community that are already there. Because most of the time during the day, an arts and crafts pottery, establishment doesn't have any students until the evening because all the adults come in the evening. Why not give it to the kids?
I think what you're saying is brilliant, but the only thing is, Uber
Mhm.
and Lyft, do you know what they cost? Could you imagine having to pay an Uber every
Listen to
day?
this. There's a way around that as well. These, what I call them like, okay, we were talking about real estate. I'm saying there are so many commercial, have you noticed in real estate, Jenny, commercial spaces that are empty now? Commercial real estate has suffered a lot and it has been suffering since the time of COVID because so many places, right, just don't have a brick and mortar, establishment, right? So lots of commercial space that's open. I'm saying take some of these commercial spaces, have schools more in your areas, pop-up schools, right? I don't have to drive 40 minutes to get to that one school that's in my area, right? 30 kids in one class don't get any attention one-on-one, and they're structured in a jail from 8 to 4 or 8 to 3, and then I've got to take them to after school
Who's
activities
going
and
to
sit in traffic.
finance it? It always comes down to money. And
Yes.
those who create the education system, I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
they know this could be done. I don't want to play devil's advocate.
Mm-hmm.
Because
No, no, but this is a valid question. What
they
I'm
want it set up like this because the current arrangement
Mhm.
benefits those who need to benefit from the way the system is structured. This
Mhm.
is brilliant what you're saying.
What I'm saying is you start doing every change always happens in small steps, small increments. I'm not saying you're going to do all of this at all at one time. I'm saying start with simple kiosk, pop-up school, right? It's called like a kiosk life school. You'll have maybe 10 students in one area, one zip code, right? They come. You already have contracted like a subscription method with Waymo, Uber, Lyft. You have to contract with the company. And at the same time, you already contracted with an arts and crafts or a pottery or a YMCA that is local. It's easier to do it when it's in a local kind of situation, right? Because there will be less pushback. You are contributing to a service, right? And you're helping a child. You're contributing to a system which is already driverless, because that's where we're going, by the way, right? So it's subscription based. It's not like every time we're going to have and pay. We get a subscription. I don't have to worry about insurance. I don't have to worry about payment. I don't have to worry about anything, right? Everything is covered. Do you know that if you do the cost effectiveness of this, you have a child who's, not paying 50,000, it could be as little as about 5,000 per year per student. Who can't afford that? Per year. We're talking a 9-month framework. Because when you pull the money together, then you're able to generate contracts between the providers as well and they see that there's a new system of education coming into play. Slowly you start to emulate that over across the board, right? People want to come on board with something like that. But this will benefit our children, will benefit the services within the community, will also benefit the real estate market, the commercial real estate market that is in terrible, terrible shape right now. Landlords will be happy, right?
We hope.
We hope, well, we try, right? But what I'm saying is we have to, and then we'll also be in step with this AI, right? Because all you need is 2 hours at the most. People, you can do it five times a week, but you can even do it every other day. You can let the parents know that, okay, they're in a safe environment. They're getting their activities done during the school session, right? That 9 to 3 time frame. They're safe in the Waymo, Uber, Lyft, whatever. I don't want to put my child into a driverless. Oh my goodness. Okay, I understand that. Your concerns are valid, but you do put them with a driver where you don't know psychologically where they're at. But okay, you don't want that. The subscription for an actual driver will be, you can go in an Uber. You don't have to put them in a Waymo van. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do that. It will be up to the parent to tailor it so that we can best, guide these children who will be at least excited about learning. I'm going to go, okay, mom, today I'm going to go to piano class. Today I'm going to go to ballet. Today I'm going to go to soccer. I'm going to go to fencing. I'm going to go to karate.
So we have to do a part two because we've gone over an hour and already. And
Okay.
I think these are really, really great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I've noticed is the
Yes.
world that we live in or the country that we live in, great
Mm.
ideas don't get very far if it doesn't benefit the system.
Yes, I know.
So, we have to wait and see. I
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be um, a negative influence on this conversation, but I've been researching and researching and watching and watching, and
Mm-hmm.
we need change from the
Yes.
top in order to affect some of the change we are trying to create on the bottom. But like
Yes,
I
but I always
always
feel.
said, I did not
Mhm.
vote because I believe that the red and the blue are wings of the same bird. And I'm sure people are understanding now what I meant when I wrote an op-ed stipulating this years before the elections.
Right.
Every day I see people who voted for the red now. They're lamenting, they're having voters' remorse. The wings of the same bird. This
Right.
is why when people like Laura and I and the others in the world who want a better world for our children come up with these brilliant ideas, oftentimes we don't get very far with them, but we're going to try.
Well, at the end of the day, what I say is artificial intelligence, AI, was born way back when, actually. Now we are just seeing, the effects because it's more in the hands of the people, right? With ChatGPT, it's not like people have been working on this since, back, I think you have the godfather and the godmother of AI. They were doing back in 2008 or even before that, right? It has come to the forefront because things are changing at a very accelerated pace. And those very people that started this, what they call uh, the godfather of AI and godmother, they are also very wary of they're anxious about what's happening, right? Because there is no regulation. I, as an educator, as a educational consultant, as a person who has programmed curriculum, you have to pivot. You have to keep that joy of learning within the students. The children aren't going to know what's going on in the world. They look to us as the adults, right? For their future. Then, of course, back in as early as high school or even seventh grade, eighth grade, they already get an idea. The parents have no idea what they're doing. That's not the point. The point is let's try to make them excited because they do have to face the future and you don't want them coming back to you, well, Mom, you told me to do this, and look at where everything is at. Or, look, Dad, you told me to do this, and that's not available anymore, you know? So it's going to be a different world in as quickly as 3 to 5 years.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Laura. Before I wrap the segment, is there anything
Mhm.
you wanted to say that you didn't get to say before we do
No,
another segment?
most important, Jenny, is that we shouldn't be in this elite, that education should not be based on your pocketbook. It should be available to all children, right? And the wisdom of what we get as adults, what we know as adults, we should really try to structure something that is good for our children, moving forward, because they face a future that is, very, very different from how you and I grew up, right? So that's important to me. And that's important when I'm deciding for my students what should the curriculum should be, how I should teach them, and how to really face those questions. Why do I need to do this? You know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Laura. Um, I am going to keep my fingers crossed because this whole AI thing, it's got its own war going on, and those at the top that are creating I think, have little concern for education and how it's affecting children. Because if they did, it would be regulated. Anyway,
Yeah.
these are hot topics for me, and they really get under my skin when I watch it, what's happening in the world. But I'm just one woman with a small voice and don't know how much change can come out of these conversations. But I am hoping something will change because someone who has more power than Laura and I will hear this conversation and maybe work on Laura's suggestions. And I promise to bring her back so we could go over in more detail her ideas of how we can implement change for the benefit of the children. And thank you so much for watching
Thank you.
Conversations with Jennylyn. And thank you, Laura. And my tagline, thank you for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. When a conversation is all you need to be inspired, was Laura's invention. So here we're wrapping this segment with her using her tagline, and we will see you sometime soon to continue this discussion. And
It will be my pleasure, Jenny. Thank you so much for having me on the platform. I really appreciate it and giving me a chance to at least, express what I see should be done and could be done, given the right, you know, uh, people and structure.
I believe where there is life, there is hope. So until we die,
Yes,
we will remain hopeful. And we
exactly.
will see you soon with another segment. Thank you for watching. Bye.